America, and hello, nuclear aficionados around the world. This is a special segment of an information nugget from nuclear.com. I was reading a transcript of the subcommittee of the Advisory Committee on Reactor Safeguards from December 4th, 2013. And anyway, this video is going to be titled Nuclear Post-LOCA Dispersal of Fine Fuel Fragments Almost Like Sand, December 2013 update. And I posted it at news.nuclear.com, my blog. And let's see. Let's take a look at the article here. Oh, in the background, by the way, I've got my Twitter list, my Nuclear.com daily Twitter list, which has got 170 people who tweet almost exclusively about things nuclear, or at least related to nuclear. Anyway, and I'm showing a tweet by Lucas Hickson of Chicago, who tweets as Informable. He's done some pretty interesting stuff. He's got a tweet on improper lobbying in San Onofre probe out of the San Diego Union Tribune. Anyway, back to this ACRS transcript. I've given an excerpt from introductory comments by Kathy Gibson, a division director within the NRC's Office of Research in their Division of Systems Analysis. Let me just quote from her. She's introducing this December 4th presentation from NRC to the ACRS. Our main presenters are Dr. Patrick Reynaud and Michelle Flanagan. They'll talk about the new insights in analysis of the phenomena of fuel fragmentation, relocation, and dispersal under LOCA, loss of coolant accident, conditions. The work that they'll present is driven by a research plan that we developed in 2011 to investigate this phenomena. We put together this research plan as a result of unexpected results that emerged from tests in our LOCA program in Studsvik. The Studsvik tests produced observations of significant fuel dispersal characterized by fine fuel fragments, almost looks like sand. The fuel lines tested at Studsvik had a right average burnup near 70 gigawatt-days per metric ton of uranium. Halden tests used a very high burnup, around 90 gigawatt-days. Sightings had already shown significant fuel dispersal, but the Studsvik tests were closer to the U.S. burnup limits and therefore garnered greater attention. And I think the U.S. limit is 65 gigawatt-days per metric ton of uranium. So Studsvik was slightly higher than that. The first observation of fuel dispersal was over 10 years ago in the Halden reactor program. This phenomena was first observed, but it was so unexpected that most of the explanations and discussions were really focused on what was non-typical about those experiments and kind of trying to look at what had happened and why it wasn't normal. Over the next couple of years, we saw these results again, so they were repeatable, but still the data was very limited. And then in the most recent history, around 2010, 2012, we saw that our results at Studsvik repeated significant fuel dispersal. It started to become something that couldn't be ignored and became a subject of international meetings and discussions and research program plans that were aimed at resolving them. However, despite the number of observations that we had by 2012, there still wasn't a unified description of why this was happening, or really the ability to identify trends. And you saw this a little bit in New Reg 1221. There was a lot of information and there was a lot of scatter in that data, the experimental conditions as well as the observations, so it was really hard to put together a theory at that point. So, as Kathy mentioned, we developed a research plan to identify what was needed to learn more and resolve what was going on in these tests. And so we collaborated with the Halden Reactor Project and Studsvik to review some of the examinations that they had performed on their past rods, which, for whatever reason, weren't presented in the enlarged Halden program. You know, there were supplemental images or discussions that we had with the staff to find out other observations that they had had personally. And then at Studsvik, we ordered a couple service examinations that were based on what we suspected might be going on. So we asked them to look at this specific area because we thought it could have some insight. And once we did that work, we came up with 5 key observations, and I'm going to get into all of these in detail and describe why each of them is significant. So for now, I'll just read them. The first is that extensive fragmentation was not present before the testing. The second was that the extent of relocation and fragmentation was correlated with the local strain of the cladding and the proximity to the rupture location. Third, there was significant change quite rapidly, somewhere between 60 and 70, some high and very high burnup tests. We also noticed that pressure transducers in the plenum region, which is where the pressure is measured, sometimes showed slow depressurization, which indicates that there are some gas flow restrictions between this plenum region, where the pressure is measured, and the rupture region, where the pressure is released. And then, finally, for high burnup tests, most of the fine fragments that we collected seem to originate from the periphery of the pellet. And I'll explain how we return to this. Whereas for the very high burnup rods, the fine fragments that were collected appear to originate from all radii. That's the end of the quote. The transcript includes copies of presentation slides, including some copyrighted by the Electric Power Research Institute. And that probably explains why the PDF containing the transcript is considered copyrighted there by NRC. NRC reports that the PDF is available at, and you can find the URL, there's a clickable link there at news.nuclear.com. If you have any trouble getting the document through that link, you'll have to go through NRC's Atoms system and search for accession number ML13356A004 and download the PDF from there. Thanks. This has been a Nuclear.com information nugget. I'm Steve Shulin of Nuclear.com. Hope you have a great rest of the day. And those of you in the nuclear biz, make it another safe one, my friends.